At WrestleMania 35, we got exactly what we wanted. Our opening match saw Seth Rollins win the Universal title. Halfway through the show, Kofi Kingston did the same with the WWE Championship, and at the end, Becky Lynch walked away with as much gold as she could get her hands on. For the first time in a while, the biggest pay-per-view of the year felt like a feel-good nugget of warmth. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Nothing is perfect though, and unfortunately someone has to be the bearer of bad news, and today that's me. Now we're a little bit removed, I'm sure there's plenty WWE would like to pretend didn't happen at Mania 34, and just to be right assholes, let's underline all of that, which of course will highlight it even more. I'm Simon from What Culture, please do subscribe, and this is 10 things WWE wants you to forget about WrestleMania 35. Number 10, Hulk Hogan. A controversial entry, as I find out every time I bring it up. Hulk Hogan is just going to be a controversial person until it turns out he's not actually immortal. The racism incident is a hard thing to forget about, even if in life it's always good to try and forgive. As said at the time, when Real American hit at the start of WrestleMania 35, it was just a downer for me. I didn't need it.
That's why it's not just going to get a down, it's going to get a brown down because, like I say, it made me feel I was uncomfortable with it.
The reaction said otherwise, but one aspect I think we can all agree with is that eventually Hogan has to learn the damn venue's name. He even got it wrong here on purpose after pretending he was in the Superdome. That joke sucked, but it was even dumber when he called MetLife Stadium the MetLife Center. Like we'd all come for some kind of business meeting or to look at fishes in the aquarium. You can bet your ass that WWE didn't like that given the amount of money that exchanges hands for Mania these days, and Hulk Hogan just called it something completely different to what it was. Also, it was the start of the show. Not the best time to make a mistake. Just do your homework, Hulk, and apologise properly. Number 9, Ali's almost injury. As we know, the Andre the Giant Battle Royal is mostly there to ensure everyone gets on the WrestleMania card. In that sense, it's nice. Being involved is better than the alternatives, and the fact WWE thinks this too makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. When it comes to Ali, he was almost hurt so badly he probably would have rued this decision. You can't get injured if you're sat in the back. As Luke Harper was attempting to suplex Ali over the top rope from the inside to the outside, Braun Strowman came over and kicked Harper right in the chest, sending him to the floor. I think the monster among men was a bit too amped because he booted Harper so hard that he went flying backwards while still holding Ali in the air. As you can imagine, this saw the high flyer hit the floor head first and then almost smack his brain on the announce desk. You know it was scary because Ali even tweeted out afterwards that he was still alive. That's much better than the opposite, and what would have we done if it had come to pass? Couldn't handle that. Ali was only in the Battle Royal because he had to sit out before after getting banged up. 2 for 2 would have been way too sad. We were okay in the end, but don't expect WWE to be shining any kind of spotlight on it. Number 8, Batista's trip. Poor Big Dave. He can't enter a WWE ring these days without getting memed, and that happened again at WrestleMania 35. It was only a blip, and if you blinked you would have missed it, but one of the first things Batista did when he got to the ring was trip over the rope and fall on his face. Like a modern day version of the Shockmaster, and it broke my heart. Because he's just a good dude all round, he laughed it off, which is always the best thing to do, by the way, if you do go down, and it's not like he botched throughout the rest of the evening. It was a little moment of madness that he owned and moved on from. Again though, not like WWE is going to use that in the Moments of the Year package. Really the worst part is what it meant in terms of kayfabe. Batista was coming in to be a killer, and then he collapsed on the floor within seconds. Number 7, Batista's motorcade had reversing problems. To be fair to WWE, no one is meant to know about this, and no one does, unless you were sat behind the massive stage set at Mania 35. Luckily I was, so I have all the details, and all you saw once Batista had gotten into the ring were his entrance cars struggling to reverse into the backstage area. As they tried to get through the gap, which was massive by the way, neither vehicle could fit behind the sliding door and into the space they'd driven out of. Even though it should have been a quick correction, it just went from bad to worse. 4 employees had to step up to sort this out, which must have helped given that a bunch more people were trying to get Triple H's Mad Max tribute down the ramp. Given how stressful Mania must be, you can only imagine Vince McMahon getting more and more riled up as he tries to produce a wrestling show. It was a really weird sight too, just these cars moving back and forth like that reversing skit in Austin Powers. Just happened to be going down mere meters away from 80,000 people. Number 6, John Cena's rap lines. While seeing the Thugonomics version of John Cena return to the WWE was awesome, it was far from WWE's usual PG affair. He basically called Elias a piece of shit and told the world he masturbated a lot. The Attitude Era had returned, if only for a few minutes. Fans were grinning ear to ear, so you can't moan about it, but all of a sudden we were back in 2002. The overwhelming feeling when we were done is that we wanted more of that and less of the superhuman Cena we'd gotten used to over the last decade. That was doubled down on when John said, "And they call me the Golden Shovel, so I'm about to bury your push. Your face looks like my nuts, except you have a hairier bush." Bam. Obviously a lot worse has happened in WWE history, but it's all relative, and this was far more risque than the usual episode of Raw and SmackDown. Do wonder what some parents thought of it as they watched Mania with their kids, so if you do have a story, please let us know in the comments below. Number 5, Sasha Banks and Bayley having a rumoured backstage tantrum. Right, yes, all of this is murmurs at the moment, but even then, you think WWE likes all this? Of course they don't. No one wants their dirty laundry aired in public. Makes the whole thing harder, especially when some people say that Sasha Banks and Bayley were throwing a tantrum backstage. The original drop of info came from Ryan Satin at Pro Wrestling Sheet, who said via 4 sources that the pair refused to get up from the dressing room floor and loudly complained about dropping the women's tag team titles at the show. They were apparently furious that their title reign was going to be cut short and that WWE wanted to put the belts on the Iconics. Because of all this, they wanted to make sure everyone knew they were unhappy. It carried on later outside of their hotel rooms until they chatted with management about it all. True, not true, all we do know is that it's still out of control as we talk about it now. Straight up, WWE wants you to forget about all of it, especially in case Banks never returns to the company. Number 4, the way Kurt Angle's career ended. Look, there is a way WWE can use everything that happened with Kurt Angle at Mania to turn Baron Corbin into a proper asshole. If he goes on about it as much as Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman did when they destroyed The Undertaker's streak, I imagine fans will want to throttle him before long and give him an edge he needs. With all that said, when you remember just exactly what Angle had achieved, you'd be forgiven for thinking this may have been off base. Making his debut in 1999, he was one of the best wrestlers in the world within a hiccup. By 2006, health and personal problems had forced him out of WWE, but he still somehow repeated some of that magic in TNA. Triple H, The Undertaker, The Rock, John Cena, Sting, AJ Styles, it didn't matter, Angle could work with them all. This is why seeing it end in a 6-minute Raw-like match was a bit sad. It's not like Kurt can go like he used to, but still, if someone had told you this in the late 90s, you may have choked on your WWE ice cream bar. Could the company regret this down the line? Maybe, but at least we'll always have those memories of what he was able to do. It will always be unreal. Number 3, the attendance. When Alexa Bliss came out to tell us that WWE had shattered the attendance record at MetLife Stadium, it wasn't a big surprise. Somehow they do that every year, but that's where the skepticism comes into place. Everybody knows the company likes to inflate the real number, and this year was no different. Bliss may have said 82,265, but who knows? Could have just been 65,000. What's really weird about it is that the stadium has a capacity of 82,550 for the New York Giants and Jets NFL games, so how we got here is anyone's guess. Well, no, I can guess. We just made it up because why not? No one actually cares. Also, U2 did a show there in 2011 and sold over 88,000 tickets. I mean, WWE may have just been talking about wrestling, but they absolutely did not say that, and there's a reason for it. It's because they didn't mean that at all. Number 2, Bret Hart's Hall of Fame attack. One of the worst things to happen in wrestling for a long time. This was just disgusting. To do so at the Hall of Fame ceremony and go after Bret Hart, a stroke victim, you tell me. Some people are just scum. How all this happened too is questionable. You'd have to figure that security assumed nothing like this would go down during the Hall of Fame, but they were wrong. As Bret Hart was giving his speech about his recently deceased friend, this moron hopped the barrier and tackled the hitman to the floor. Within seconds, he was getting his ass kicked as other wrestlers put the boot in, especially Dash Wilder. Smashed that fool with a right so hard it knocked him silly. As they should, WWE will delete this from the network broadcast because this idiot doesn't deserve any spotlight whatsoever. If nothing else, don't repeat these actions. No one comes to a wrestling show to see you. Unless this is Seth Rollins watching right now, then you're actually okay. Number 1, the finish of the main event. While you can say the main event didn't live up to some expectations, it was still something to be remembered. Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch made history by closing WrestleMania 35, and our chosen pick won 2 titles. You've really got to be a negative Nancy to lay into that one too much. As for the finish, well, that was something different. There's dozens of different stories out there, but the main one is that the roll-up wasn't the original ending. Whether that was due to the referee worrying about Ronda's broken hand and fearing she wouldn't be able to work much longer, or just counting even though her shoulders weren't down, it was not what was meant to happen. The ref in question, Rod Zapata, even got fined by WWE for doing this, and you can already tell that WWE wants you to forget about it. Every time they've showed it back so far, it's been completely blacked out. That is one way to do it.